Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome back, Senator Leahy. You look well. We're glad to have you back. I want to make a couple of points, and I have some amendments at the appropriate time, Mr. Chairman. The first point I'll make is a point that I have made previously. We did have a hearing on this bill on a subcommittee, but as I have said before, I think we've missed an opportunity by not having a hearing before the full committee. So everybody will have an opportunity to have their say, and more importantly, to gather more information. I think we could have learned something. That's point one. Point two, there will be a number of amendments today that I hope will strengthen the bill. I have two. One would protect the social media against frivolous litigation by requiring the losing party to pay attorney's fees. The other one would reduce the sunset provision on this bill from 8 years to 6, shortening the time that our publishers would be immune from antitrust scrutiny. This bill, of course, is intended to help small newspapers and broadcasters. I do not intend, and I only speak for myself, I do not intend it to be an anti-social media bill. Most of our social media companies are American companies, and I'm very proud of that. That they have enjoyed extraordinary success. And in many respects, not all, as I'll talk about in a moment, but in many respects, that they have improved our quality of life, I think. I think social media, well, first, just the internet in general, I'm always constantly amazed at the fact that almost the entire body of human knowledge is available with a click on a computer. I think that's improved our world immensely. In terms of social media, I think it has made, in many respects, it's made people less lonely. That's a good thing. Social media can deliver insight. Social media can deliver joy. Social media can give voice to the timid, and I think that's important. With one click now, one can become an activist on social media. In many respects, the social media has made our world smaller, and I think that is a good thing. I think it's a good thing when we talk to each other. There have been downsides. Number one, I think there's an enormous amount of confusion about the censorship by social media. And we all have our opinions on that. I don't think it's fair. I think many of the people who run social media are left of center as opposed to right of center, and I think they censor content by those who are right of center more than they do left of center. I know some will disagree with that, but that's what I believe. It bothers me, government interference with the content on social media bothers me. There have been recent allegations that the Biden White House has tried to influence content on social media. I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think any White House should use its power, if that's true, to censor content on social media. And we need to have a standard to try to we can all agree that poison is being spread on social media. The problem, of course, is what is poison. And I don't think government ought to make that definite, ought to decide that definition. That's point one. Point two, this also bothers me about social media. I think it has made our society coarser. I think social media has lowered the cost of being an a-hole. And I really regret that. I mean, people say things on social media that they would never say to another person in person. I don't know what to do about that, but I don't think it's made our society better. So in addition to, in some respects, being a killing field for the truth, social media has also, in many respects, made our people coarser. The final point, I think social media, I'm not against big, I'm against dumb. And our social media companies are so successful that they're no longer companies, they're corporations. And they have, as is their right in a competitive free market, they have sucked up most of the advertising like a Hoover Deluxe. Now that's fine in a competitive free market. But they have done that by, in my opinion, unfairly using the creative content of others. And that has really hurt a lot of the small newspapers and a lot of the small broadcasters in my state. And I think that for a small amount of time, a limited period of time, this bill will help those broadcasters and small newspapers compete. I also think that circumstance, and this will be my final point, that circumstance that I've just described, large social media organizations using the content of small newspapers to generate advertising revenue and to take that advertising revenue away from small newspapers and broadcasters. I think that his circumstance has also changed journalism. I do. This is not true of all of our broadcasters and newspapers. I don't think it's even true of, I hope, most of them. But some of these smaller and indeed larger news media organizations have now entered a post-journalism world. They become agenda journalists. I'm sure there are a multitude of reasons for that, but I think one of the reasons, maybe not the major, maybe it is they're trying to survive. When I entered government, newspapers and broadcasters made most of their money from advertising, not from subscriptions, and they could tell the American people what they needed to hear, not what they wanted to hear. Now that world has changed. Those media organizations have to make their money from subscribers, and there is way too much pander for pay, and I think it has hurt journalism. And I'm hoping that over time, this bill will help our media organizations, both newspapers and broadcasters, to be able to return to a model where they just report who, what, when, where, and why, and don't have to add their opinion. And for all those reasons, Mr. Chairman, I am going to support this bill, and at the appropriate time, I will offer my amendments.
Thanks, Senator Kennedy.